So I apologize in advance. I don't know how to do this assignment. I've never done this before, like recording me doing my presentation. I don't even know where my presentation is supposed to be. So I'm really sorry if you can't read one of my presentation and you're supposed to read it. So if you need to read it, please tell me and I'll send you the link or something. And don't downgrade me on it because I just don't know how to do this. But I guess I'll just start. I chose Margaret Washburn. So who is Margaret Washburn? She was a woman that was born in 1871, right when the whole women's rights movement was beginning. And she was born into a very well-off family that was able to provide her with many tutors, and her top two favorite subjects were science and philosophy. And at the age of 16, she was very smart, and at the age of 16, she entered a college, at first as a hearer, and then eventually as a student, because they saw what a brilliant student she was. The professor there was teaching science and philosophy into one subject called psychology, and it interested her because it combined her two favorite subjects. And eventually, she graduated out of Vassar College with the professorship of philosophy, and a few years later, the title professor of psychology. She was later employed at the Vassar College as in charge of the psychology division, and she taught psychology to women students. She was the first woman to officially receive the first PhD given to a woman for psychology, and she was the second woman to be the president, the APA president. Interestingly enough, the first woman who was given the president of the APA would have received her PhD in the same year as Washburn did, but unfortunately the college that she was taught at denied her the degree, so she was resigned to being to be known as the first APA president, a woman APA president. So Margaret Washburn contributed a lot to the psychology field, but she mainly focused on the contribution with minds of animals and their cognitive functions. She's in fact mostly known for her book The Animal Mind, which was published in 1908 and was and still is the most popular book used for comparative psychology. The book covers topics such as consciousness in animals, recurs in relation to the different senses, space perception, memory, problem solution, etc. And it's actually a compilation of a whole bunch of comprehensive survey of animal behavior based on a critical analysis of the literature, which even in 1908 demanded a bibliography of 476 titles, increasing from edition to edition up to a total of 1,683 titles. With each edition, there were in total 4 editions made to the book, and within each edition, certain topics were elaborated on, or were removed, or were added based on the new discoveries and new perspectives such as behaviorism that shed some light onto the subject and increase the knowledge of it. She wasn't too fond of theories, but she did develop the motor theory of consciousness. So when you bring it down to the bones, basically the hypothesis of the theory was that thinking is based on movement, so therefore consciousness is linked to motor activity. And she did this through the experimental method of introspection, which really funnily, which is very funny because she actually didn't approve of introspection all the way. One of her teachers who mentored her and helped her become really successful in the career of psychology later developed the theory or the set of standards or something for introspection, and she highly disagreed with it to the point where they just drifted apart because that's how much she was against it. But apparently she agreed to a certain point to support her motor theory of consciousness. But despite how successful that theory was, she preferred doing experimental work. In her autobiography, she wrote, "The results of experimental work, if it is successful at all, brings more lasting satisfaction than the development of theories." So she preferred experimental work over developing theories. So you have to understand that Margaret Washburn was a very busy woman. She held many positions, among which was head of the psychology division and teaching women. She loved giving lectures, going to lectures. She made many experiments of her own, And in all of that, she found time to write so many published works. I'll only list the big major ones. So including the vaster studies, more than 130 articles. And there were some other, up to 200 of like other texts or something, but official like journals and articles, like more than 130. The vaster studies were experiments that her students, the women's students, that conducted, but she like edited and helped analyze and write like their results and published it, joining their names. Her top two most successful books were The Animal Mind and Movement and Mental Imagery. She helped translate Once Ethical Systems, which is a German book, with a few other psychologists. And she participated as an associate or cooperating editor of at least 6 periodical journals, which I'm assuming is a lot. Criticism from other psychologists. I couldn't really find anything that other psychologists having a negative opinion of Margaret Washburn. The only conflict that there was evidence of was when Margaret Washburn herself had a negative opinion of other psychologists' theories or views, or at least to a certain degree of their theories or views. However, she was awarded a great abundance of the highest awards during her lifetime, and she's considered as one of the most important psychologists today in history. Her books and articles are still widely read and used as classics, and all that can be found about her is praising her works. So why did I choose her? Definitely not because she was like one of the top on the list, but she was also one of the top psychologists that seem to have the most impact in the psychology world for women, being as that she was the first woman to receive a PhD in psychology, which naturally paved the way for other women to follow in her footsteps, especially since she taught other women in the field of psychology. And she contributed a lot to psychology, but mostly with animal and human emotional motor perceptions and a variety of other similar topics. She was extremely active and ambitious, and the perfect model of a busy yet effective and successful psychologist. And these are my references. Just